again, would you believe it? I feel like that's how I've started all of these videos. Today's video is about silence. If you're new to this channel, first of all, hello, my name's Raquel, even though my channel name is something different, and I am unbelievably introverted. And I don't think I realised just how introverted I was until I moved in with my grandmother, who is very chatty. I love my grandmother to bits and pieces, and I'm very grateful that I can stay with her. But we're very different. Very, very different. For one thing, to give you a good image, she is always what we compared to the Queen. Very posh, very British, has everything a certain way, and yeah, just very regal, very posh. And the rest of us aren't really. But then on top of that, she's very social, which isn't a bad thing, not at all, but I'm not. And we are very much on two opposite ends of the spectrum. I love just being in my room, in my own space, being left alone. And she doesn't like that. It makes her very uncomfortable. And that's okay, and I'm trying to adapt to make her a bit happier. But the reason why this video has come to mind is because the other day we had a guest over who is very much like my grandmother. And I think both of them, and I could be mistaken, maybe I've just misinterpreted it, but the way it comes across to me anyway is that both of them don't like silence at all. And I personally think there is such a difference between silence and awkward silence. I love silence. I adore just having that quietness, the peace, being left alone with my own thoughts, my own things to do. And I don't really find silence as awkward unless the other person makes it awkward. And that's exactly what was happening. We were sat in the living room and I was just happily in my own thoughts, kind of thinking about things. And I could tell that my grandmother's friend really wanted to say something. And I could tell that she didn't know quite what to say and that I didn't really know what to say either. And so she just asked these questions to try and fill the silence, but I felt like I was more awkward because of that. I would have happily just sat there, but then because I could tell that she needed to ask something, she needed to be saying something, it just felt worse almost, to me anyway. And my grandmother's quite similar in the sense of we'll be sat eating supper, whatever, and she just has to ask me about something, which is fine, it really is. I don't want to come across as complaining, but it's just interesting to me how different we are. Because for me, I'd happily just sit there, eat my own food, maybe say thank you for cooking, it was lovely. And that's about it really. And especially with my grandmother, I see her all the time, obviously we live together. And so there's not always that much to talk about because we've already spoken about things. So one thing that happens very often, which actually links quite nicely to my last video that I made, is she'll ask me, oh, any auditions? Or is there anything you need to prepare for? And it's very sweet of her to be interested and to care. But equally, she asks that almost every night. And then I'm kind of like, no, nothing's changed since yesterday, actually, funnily enough. I don't obviously respond to her like that because I would never, but it's just so funny to me that she feels the need to ask something at least, just to have a conversation going. And what's interesting as well to me is that as a kid, I used to love conversations. I also loved silence, but I loved conversations if they were about something deep and meaningful or philosophical. That's a weird word. Philosophical? I don't know, that thing. If they were about philosophy. I loved talking about deep things, but I cannot stand, what's the word? Like small talk. I've always disliked it. At school, I remember always just being a bit bored of it. Like the people I was closest to were the people I could have those deep conversations with. I remember there was one night, this is totally off topic, but anyway, there was one night, I think we were having like a sleepover at school. I can't really remember why we were there. We had like a music studio and I think we were sort of sat around there. Maybe I've dreamt this, but it feels very real. I'm gonna continue telling it anyway. And it was me and actually a couple of boys. Oh, actually, I've just thought I want to make a whole other video to do with that as well. And I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but I think it had to do with religion. And I just loved it. It was so nice to talk about something like that rather than a lot of the superficial things I spoke about with some other friends. And I'm still that way. I still don't like filling silence just for the sake of filling it. I'd rather be silent unless we happen to be talking about something really like full of flavor, you know? Probably not making any sense, but you know, those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think what I'm saying is just rubbish. And the thing is also, I think on my channel, I kind of have a balance. I do the small talk stuff, but I also do the deep stuff. But I think that's okay because it's my own space and you don't have to listen to it. I barely have an audience anyway, but for the audience that I do have, if it's something they don't care about, they don't have to watch it. Whereas if you're in a situation of a conversation, and it's not just my grandmother, this is just in general, you can't just fast forward a conversation or close the tab on a conversation. So you kind of just have to sit there and answer the questions. I don't know, I'm really not trying to take a dig at my grandmother, I just know that we're very different. And that's okay, we're allowed to be different. It would probably be a bit of a nightmare if we were the same. But I do remember a few weeks ago, she came into my room and she kind of asked me about it. She was like, you tend to be in your room a lot. Like, don't you think that's a little bit rude? And I was honest with her. I responded, I said, well, I'm very introverted and I really like my own space and my own sort of area. And I can't even properly explain it, but I don't see a problem with being on my own. But I did obviously say to her, if it makes you uncomfortable or if you'd like me to come out and chat to you more, I am happy to. And she said yes, and I did. Like, and I do. And I have tried to make that change because, you know, it's nice for her. And it is nice, but it's just not sort of what I'm naturally programmed to do. But yeah, I do love my grandmother very much, and I'm really like, we're just different. That's all. And this isn't just about her. This is about a group of people on this planet who are like her, and then a group of people on this planet who are like me, and just our differences. And that's okay. We're allowed to be different. We just all need to respect each other. I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments kind of which side you're on. Not that it's competition, but like how you feel about things. And I'll see you all in the next video, which I've just thought about earlier that I want to make. So I'm going to film that right now. Bye!